All right. Call to order the meeting of the Salem School Committee of May 19th, 2025. This meeting is taking place in person at 29 Highland Avenue, room 227 in Salem. You can also join via Zoom using the link posted in the meeting agenda. We have a couple of members missing tonight and one participating remotely, so we'll have roll call votes until we have all attending members in person. First order of business is approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
Motion made by Member Cornell, seconded by Member Campbell. A roll call vote. Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Cornell?
Yes.
Member Cruz?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Public comment. The Salem School Committee would like to hear from the public on issues that affect the school district and are within the scope of the committee's responsibilities. Spanish interpretation is available for anyone who needs it. The members of the school committee would like to remind the public that Salem Public School students regularly attend school committee meetings. We encourage all meeting participants to model respectful and productive public discourse for our young learners. We have public comment in the room.
Hi, everybody. Ben Chertok, District Music Coordinator, and I'm here just to celebrate the fact that by proclamation from Governor Maura Healey, today was the, I believe, the first ever Massachusetts Day for Music Education, and we just came back from. Yeah, it was really, really exciting. The Massachusetts Music Educators Association has been working tirelessly behind the scenes, and our Salem High School Indoor Percussion Ensemble was one of 9 performing groups selected to perform at the State House today. It was quite the adventure, but the kids did phenomenal. Mr. Cruz was actually there with us to watch the performance. Members of Senator Lovely's staff. We bumped into Lieutenant Governor Driscoll. Everybody was sort of flying in and out. But I didn't want to let today go by without acknowledging the significance of the support from our state. And of course, here locally in Salem, we know, and I don't think any of our music educators take for granted the fact that music is supported and loved here in Salem. And I just wanted to come here and publicly thank the committee, our administrators, our fellow teachers, our parents, and of course our students for all that they do to really make this, in my opinion, the best job there is, because it's just a blast to watch them do what they do. So that's that.
Any further public comment from the chambers? Any public comment on Zoom? Nope. Our next item is approval of the consent agenda. These are the minutes of the school committee meeting of May 5th, approval of a field trip to Canterbury Lake Park for the New Liberty Innovation students of June 16th, and approval of the warrants of May 8th and May 15th.
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
Motion made by Member Cornell, seconded by Member Campbell. Roll call vote. Member Cornell?
Yes.
Member Cruz?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Matter carries. Student representatives report. Mark.
So unfortunately, I was not able to attend last school committee meeting due to the National Honor Society induction, but thankfully I'm here now. And so.
Can you hold your mic? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's good.
I'll repeat that. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend last meeting due to the National Honor Society induction, and thankfully I'm here now. And so over the past couple weeks, we've discussed elections for the new chair and vice chair that would replace me and Barbara Rowley after we graduate. Speaking of, graduation is on the 6th, next Friday, the Friday after next week, I believe.
I think you got two
weeks
from
and
Friday. Yeah.
2 weeks from Friday. It's
You just don't want to leave.
no, not at all. We have the last Student Advisory Council meeting at New Liberty. That's to get more of a sense of where, like, other students in the Student Advisory Council learn and where they have a lot of their day-to-day activities. Because for most of all of the Student Advisory Council, we've had it at Salem High School, so we really haven't had a chance to see how New Liberty and Salem Prep run. So it was a big idea that we wanted to have the last meeting there, and I'm in full support of that. And I wish I could go, but I'll be gone. The last day of classes for seniors is 5/29, May 29th. I'd just like to announce that, and that would be the last day for me And is there anything else I'm missing?
No, I think we're going to miss you, Mark. But we know we got a couple of meetings left. We're going to recognize you. And Mark's been a great leader for the student advisory group this year. And it will be a loss. We have 2 seniors in the group, but like the other 22 students are coming back next year, which is great. But without Mark and Barbara, we wouldn't have had the leadership to recruit more folks. And so I want to grateful to Mark. I know he's going to do big things at BU next year. Just remember us, Mark, one day, when you're famous one day.
I'll remember you when I'm famous. Don't worry.
Okay, please do.
Thank you.
Member Cornell?
I just want to say congratulations on National Honor Society. That's a big deal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent's report.
Yeah, we're going to start by honoring one of our educators, and I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Superintendent Carboni to share some great news about one of our coaches in the Salem Public Schools.
So, do we make her come up here?
Of course we do.
All right, come on, come hither. Last week at the State House on Thursday, our esteemed colleague, Shauna Earps, was recognized by the State Universities of Massachusetts Educator Alumni Award Ceremony, or at that ceremony. It was held at the State House. Dr. Zreik and I both attended, and Shauna's parents and children were there as well. And of all the alumni who have graduated from the SSU through their education program, Shauna was selected by the faculty, the state college presidents, and educator deans to receive this year's award. And so Michelle Pierce, Associate Dean for the College of Art and Sciences, read the following testimonial, which I shall read. Shauna Earps is the early childhood coordinator and lead literacy coach for the pre-K 5 group in Salem Public Schools. A graduate of Salem State's undergraduate education program, she began her career teaching kindergarten, first grade, and integrated preschool. She subsequently earned 2 additional graduate degrees from Salem State and has been a visiting instructor at Salem State University for 9 years. The second half of Shauna's career has been devoted to literacy development with Salem's youngest students. She worked as a reading specialist and then moved on to the role of literacy coach. In her most recent role, Shauna has been an instrumental force in the district's efforts to implement free, full-day preschool in Salem. Through the Department of Early Education and Care's Commonwealth Preschool Partnership Initiative, CPPI grant, she coaches teachers across 8 public and community-based preschools, building their capacity to provide high-quality learning environments. Shauna's dedication to promoting literacy is rooted in her firm belief that all children can achieve high literacy rates and deserve high-quality literacy instruction. Deputy Superintendent Kate Carboni notes that educators routinely report feeling supported, encouraged, and enriched by their engagements with Shauna. Salem State University is pleased to honor her excellence and dedication to education with this award. And I think anyone who knows Shauna, as I do well, knows that this is a well-deserved honor. I really need to say that Shauna approaches all that she does with joy and optimism and that smile that she has. Brings such a high level of expertise and knowledge to the work. And what I find very endearing of her is that she's a staunch advocate for our youngest learners and has played a really pivotal role. It's understated. I don't think we can ever acknowledge all that she does in building a strong early education, bolstering the early education across the city of Salem. So not just in Salem Public Schools. When we visit the partners, they talk very endearing of Shauna and of her work. She's going to play a lead role in the PRISM work, which is the upcoming work across the state in early literacy. So I'm proud to have you on my team and really feel privileged to work with you and couldn't think of anyone more deserving of the honor than you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so congratulations.
Member Cruz?
Thank you, Mayor. And Shauna, I wanted to be there last week, but schedules were a little bit hectic. I always love greeting my Salem folks up on the Hill. And I just want to echo the sentiment expressed by the Deputy Superintendent. Over the 8 years that I've served on the committee, it's been an absolute pleasure to receive your invitations, to see the work that you do and that you've led in the district. I'll say that for my own personal life, my daughter's at the Early Childhood Center. One of our goals this year, at the ripe age of 3 years old, is that we wanted Ivy reading. And two months ago, she started reading books to Dad and Mom. So it's been an incredible journey. So your leadership is certainly felt even in the Cruz household. And I did prepare a citation for you, and I just wanted to talk about you as an advocate. I think that the work that you've done and led in Salem, we should be writing Boston Globe op-eds about what we believe here, about what our students deserve when it comes to high quality instructional materials, professional development. So at some point, you're going to have to help me persuade these folks that don't believe that we can achieve that for all of our kids. So Superintendent, I'm going to ask you to loan Shauna to the legislature in a couple months for a really important hearing.
Manny.
So to that end, I prepared a citation for you, and it reads, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts House of Representatives be hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House offers its sincerest congratulations to Shauna Earps in recognition of receiving the 2025 Alumni Educator Award from Salem State University. You are a proud Salem State alumna and are dedicated to literacy and an advocate. Your exceptional leadership in the Salem Early Childhood Education Center and literacy programs has made a lasting impact on students, families, educators, and the broader community. Our entire membership extends its very best wishes to you and expresses hope for future good fortune and continued success. It was supposed to be given on the 15th, but I'm giving it out today. It's signed by the Speaker of the House, Ron Mariano, and offered by me, your state representative and the Vice Chair of the Salem School Committee. Congratulations.
Thank you. I think Steve asked me how long I've been in Salem Public Schools. I think I've been in Salem Public Schools since I was 19. So I'm a proud Salem educator. I've spent my entire career here by choice, and I'm excited for the work that we're doing. So thank you.
You got to take a photo here.
Oh.
He's just going to stand and lurk in the back.
And her father was a superintendent, for those of you that don't know.
Amanda and I don't.
So I don't know what that
No
says.
pressure.
Yeah, never
Just
in the
smile and
photos.
act.
We're never in
Try
the
to keep your eyes open.
We like to not be in
Keep
the
our
photos.
eyes open.
No, I don't need to be in the
Story time.
Yes, right.
Felicidades. Lo mereces.
I just wanted to also say I got permission to speak. We're very formal. I just also want to say I think that I have known Shauna for like 17 years, right? When my oldest started kindergarten, and it's been you were an unbelievable kindergarten teacher 17 years ago, and to watch that trajectory is like makes me a little teary. So hopefully, Member Cruz can take you to the State House, because she will convince everyone. She walked me all over town looking at preschools, and I was convinced in 5 minutes. So congratulations. I'm super proud of you.
Member Campbell.
I just wanted to add that it's been my immense privilege to get to work with Ms. Earps when she was also a kindergarten teacher, and just want to echo what everybody else has said. I'm incredibly proud and not at all surprised, because you, as everybody has said, were an incredible kindergarten teacher, and we're just really lucky to have you. And I suppose if the superintendent lets you borrow her, yes, but it is a loan and she must return. So
Just a loan.
she's got to come back. Thanks.
I just say when someone's new to a district, you start to realize like there are people that are just forces of nature that just get stuff done. They don't complain. They just work hard on behalf of kids. And Shauna was one of those people. It didn't take long to realize like she's one of the jewels of the Salem Public Schools. And we wouldn't be where we are with early childhood if it wasn't for her. And there's no doubt the team of her and Principal Smith have just been able to do tremendous work around expanding the programming. And she has the gift of a coach who can move people along, but do it in such a respectful, kind, and supportive way, and we're better for it. The system is better for it. Over the last 5 years, I've seen the benefits, and you all know her as a teacher. I know her as somebody that's made our early childhood programs among the best in the state of Massachusetts. So I'm grateful to you, Shauna, and we'll just keep celebrating you, until the end of the school year here. Yeah. So thank you very much for coming tonight.
Celebrate her by letting her go home.
Yeah, you can go home,
Yes.
right? Yes. So next up I'm very excited because I think we have a big crowd here for the Salem Education Foundation. I want to acknowledge that we have the president, Ellie Bloom, here. I think you're the president, board president. And Steve, I want to make sure I get your name right here. Beau Parlant, did I say that right? Okay. Who both are parents in the Salem Public Schools. And Steve is the vice president of the foundation. And I just want to say before you come up just how appreciative and grateful we are to have you as partners in this district. I know I speak for a lot of teachers who benefit greatly, and then obviously our students from the generosity of the foundation. It's been a pleasure to work with you. You're very supportive of our priorities and what we're trying to do as a system, and it doesn't always work that way, and we're very fortunate to have you in this district and I don't know how long the foundation's been around, but I know for a long time has been tremendous partners to the Salem Public Schools. So I'm going to offer you the microphone, and I know you have some guests that you want to introduce.
Do I have to fill this out?
No, we know who you are. We know where to find you.
All right. Just want to do it right. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, members of the committee and the general public. My name is Steve Beaupalant, and I'm the vice president in charge of grants for the Salem Education Foundation. As Dr. Zreich said, I'm joined today by Ellie Rounds Bloom, our president, and also Lydia King, our communications officer. I'm here today to briefly share our mission, summarize our efforts for the last year, and highlight one of our best grants. The following info is shared in the meeting materials, so there's no need to make copious notes of the numbers. The goal of the Salem Education Foundation is to raise money through a variety of efforts, including the Dinner for Two Anywhere in the World raffle held in October. This money is in turn given back to the students of Salem in the form of teacher-driven grants to offer opportunities outside of the scope of the general funding within the Salem School Department. This year we ran 2 grant cycles, last spring and this past fall, first time we've done that. And we funded 21 separate projects for a total of $26,530.80. These projects run the gamut of topics and experiences from math to emotional social learning and music. You'll be hearing from one of these projects tonight. I would also like to take the time to announce that our spring cycle for next year opens today. Please look for social media postings by Lydia, notices from the district and school leadership, Dr. Zreich, and go to salemeducationfoundation.org for more info. This application cycle will end on July 1st, and the money will be available for the start of the fall. Tonight, I'm very happy to introduce Linda Gutierrez, the author of one of our top grants this year, and her students to show the real impact of what we do. Ms. Gutierrez was the recipient of our first named grant, the Nelson L. Dion Jr. Grant for History. Through much of his life, Mr. Dion devoted himself to his love of Salem history, and his family wanted to instill this passion in the youth of Salem. This grant does just that. I'll hand it over now to Ms. Gutierrez and her students to talk about their experiences with her project entitled Young Archaeologist Apprenticeship, 6th Grade Connecting to the Ancient World Through Museum Experiences. With that.
Good evening. As said, my name's Linda Gutierrez. I teach 6th grade social studies at Collins. Thank you to the Salem Education Foundation for our grant for the Young Archaeologist Apprenticeship and for the school committee for the opportunity to speak about these amazing experiences. Our goal for the grant was for students to be able to see artifacts from ancient worlds and to bring what we learned to life throughout the year. Tonight, you're going to hear from 3 wonderful 6th grade students who will tell you about their own experiences on these learning immersions. Thank you.
Hello, I am Larry from 6th grade South, and something that stuck with me from the Ipswich Museum visit is all the stone tools that were used for different things and their unique shapes.
Hi, my name is Ashley Polanco Almanzar. I'm in 6th South, and I'm going to be talking about how the field trips really helped me understand more of social studies. When we saw stone tools, they really helped me visualize how they used to live in the Stone Age and how they found their resources. And the Museum of Fine Arts was a helpful trip that helped me understand more how Egyptians lived and most of their rules and their type of clothes.
Hi, my name is Briella Schuyler Bocage. I am in 6th grade South. I have been on field trips, and one of them is the Museum of Fine Arts. The Museum of Fine Arts showed and told me about the stone tools and the Egyptians, and also the stuff that they used, like animals for clothes and blankets for the Egyptians in Mesopotamia, Nile River. I've learned from this museum that it's a collection that includes a range of art and cave art in BCE, CE, and CE2, and how they found their resources and before they entered the new years. This field trip showed me how they lived over the years and how it helped them learn with cave arts too. Thank you for listening to us, and you're welcome.
I don't know if you guys have any questions, but it'd be a good time.
Member Cruz?
I just want to express my gratitude to the Education Foundation for their support of our educators and our students here in the district, longstanding partner here, and so fantastic that you brought the students. My question is actually for them. So y'all got to go to the Ipswich Museum and you highlighted the MFA. Can I just get like a straw poll? Have you ever been to the Ipswich Museum before this trip? No. What about the Museum of Fine Arts? Have you been there before? Excellent. So I just want to highlight just how amazing that is for students from Salem to be able to explore and see these places. So I think when we talk about supporting the Salem Education Foundation, that dinner for two around the world, it just makes all the sense. So thank you for creating those experiences for our students and empowering our educators.
Just to go with that, thank you for having such a wonderful district that these teachers are so active and care so much to submit grants. We're doing everything we can to make the application easier, and we're encouraging people. We want more grants. We always want more grants. So it's exciting that the teachers are going outside of the standard day and submitting for all these projects, and we love it.
Member Cornell?
I was just going to say what Steve said, which is that writing grants, whether they're big or small, is work, and our teachers work so hard, and to like take this extra time out of their day to do something that's really meaningful for kids. It's just, I'm so grateful, and so grateful to the Salem Education Foundation for providing them the opportunity to do it.
Can I just I'm neighbors with Ms. Gutierrez, so I'm glad you highlighted Ms. Gutierrez. She has been a fixture on this floor, despite some of the changes at Collins over the last few years. We're on a great path here, and Ms. Gutierrez has been here and been a strong educator, and so I'm glad you highlighted her work because she's done. I can tell because I've been able to tell. Not that I snoop on what's going on, but you can walk by and you see what the level of engagement. So. We do have excellent educators who are dedicated to our kids. So, and I want to thank our students. It's not easy getting in front of people, and I appreciate you guys coming tonight because I know it is a school night, and you love being at school until 8 o'clock at night, right? This is where you want to be, right? So, thank you for coming tonight and sharing with us what you've learned because of this project. So, thank you.
Just want to say also my appreciation to the foundation for everything you guys do, and to the students who presented. Thank you for demonstrating the grants at work. That was really, really helpful for us to see. So thank you for bringing them here. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So I have a couple of updates, which I'll just share. I know folks are welcome to leave.
I was going to say, you're also free to go unless you want to stay for the...
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Nice job, guys.
Good job, everybody.
So I just wanted to share a couple updates. The first is the See Me Festival is happening this week. This is a big event for the Salem Public Schools. This is our third annual event, which takes place at the PEM on Thursday, May 22nd from 5 to 7. We'll have performances from 5 to 5:30, and then the Student Voice Summit is from 5:30 to 7. That is our student participatory action research projects, which are change projects from almost every school in Salem, which will be going on from, again, 5:30 to 7. And I gave you a list in an email I sent of the topics, but I'll just read a couple. Some schools will be answering some of these questions. Why are students having a difficult time building and keeping peer relationships? Why don't students treat school bathrooms with respect? What opportunities or activities can we build for teachers and students to get to know each other and have stronger relationships? How can students and teachers build stronger relationship? And what changes can be made to increase on-time attendance and increase classroom engagement? So those are some of the genuine research that students have done, and they'll be sharing that evening. Concurrently, we also will have an art exhibit at Old Town Hall. So Lake Salem Public Schools is going to be taking over the downtown over the next couple days. It kicks off, like I said, on Thursday, but then for the next 2 weeks, the display will be at Old Town Hall of student work from K to 12. We hope that you can join us and check out what's happening at the PEM and then what's happening at Old Town Hall on Thursday evening and then into the long weekend. Our budget hearing is next Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. with the City Council. That's when we have the opportunity to present our budget for approval. That happens on Tuesday evening. I did want to also note that Senior Signing Day is on Friday, which is where we do a signing day for future educators. I think we have about 10 or so students who have committed to being educators, and we'll be acknowledging them and recognizing them. They'll also get a letter saying that when they graduate, they can come back to the Salem Public Schools to be teachers, and they'll automatically get the bump in the contract that we offer for graduates of the Salem Public Schools. And so we're looking forward to that at 8 a.m. on Friday. The Senior CTE Awards, unfortunately, is the same night as the See Me Festival. There's just too many things happening and not enough days. That's just, unfortunately, when you have a music program that has, performance every night, I can't. We love it. We wouldn't trade it for anything, but it just makes it hard for us to be in every different places. So I will point out that the CTE Awards is that night, May 22nd from 5:30 to 7:30. I also want to call out, Mr. Cruz had reminded me today that the statewide K-12 Graduation Council is meeting to recommend a new vision for the statewide graduation requirements that was voted down as part, or was the MCAS was taken away as part of the graduation requirement this year, or in November, from on a ballot referendum. There is a listening sessions across the state to inform a new approach for graduation requirements. There are a few sessions upcoming. One of them is virtually on Tuesday, June 3rd from 6 to 8. The only other one that's close to us is Wednesday, May 28th, at Somerville High School from 5 to 7. And Shirley will be sending that information to all of you so that if you're interested in participating, they really want to know what they want feedback on what a new requirement might look like that takes into account what students need to know and be able to do once they leave high school. We'll be sending that along. I did also, those are my comments. Those are my brief updates. On your agenda is also the Bentley Innovation Plan update. I do want to just share, I did not get any feedback from school committee members, but I did get some feedback from the STU. I also got some feedback from members of my team, and I just want to share with you some of the changes that were made from when Ms. Rogers and her team was here. A couple of things that I want you to note is that we did make it clear that there isn't the autonomy to be able to carry over money from one fiscal year to another. That's not part of the city's policies, and so we took that out of the plan. Regarding the length of the student day, we did make it clear that this would be in consultation with the school district and the school committee so that we don't perpetuate inequities, even though we acknowledge that in the case of Bentley, maybe lengthening the day would be an example of an equitable practice, but we wanted to make sure that it was done in concert with, obviously all the school committee, teachers union, as well as the school district. So we noted that. We also did take off take out some language about, naming the prior schools, the charter school. We spoke about, there was some qualifying language about successful, and we're not there. We don't want to use evaluative language like that. We ended up just talking about. So some of the ideas came from the other iterations of the Bentley School. So we took out words like successful because we didn't feel like we wanted that kind of qualitative language in there. We did also talk about schedule and calendar, so that it did not result in significant budgetary implications. We did want to note that the school would consult with Salem Public Schools about the schedule and calendar. We're trying to get a little more aligned with our calendars as a system, and so when we want to be careful that that decisions made by innovation schools don't end up having budgetary implications because the way the calendar is set up. Additionally, we did talk about, there was some language about advising the principal on major decisions affecting working conditions. Well, we made it clear that the innovation team or the innovation board would work with the principal, with the school district, with the teachers union around, like any school does. They would act more of a site council in giving feedback around working conditions at the school, or just the needs of the needs for the school. So those are just some of the minor changes we made in the content. I do think it's ready to move forward for a vote tonight. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Kate, because I know we talked a little bit about that.
Principal Rogers and I just talked about, there definitely is, the provision in there around autonomy around the curriculum. We did talk about making sure that we do that in advance so that we can plan for budget. So like if I don't know about it, I'm not budgeting for it. And so I think some of those things can kind of fall through the cracks, so that we just have good communication between what she and her team are planning on doing, and we can support with the budget requests that will fund different pieces of the curriculum. That's all.
Yeah, and I think we're very sensitive, obviously, because of the budget we just went through, that the innovation plans don't circumvent our budget processes, and that they don't lead to unintended inequities, which we're very sensitive to. I mean, in the case of Bentley, we have some of the, it's among our neediest schools, and we do intend to provide as much support as we can to the schools that need the most. But just as a general practice, we want to be careful with if the innovation plans of any kind bind us to financial commitments that might lead to inequities across the system. So we obviously talked about that, but we just tried to make sure that the language indicated that there would be, consultation and partnership with the school district. Those are my comments there. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I'll be asking for a vote later on.
Okay. Any questions? Member Cruz.
My only question is on the timeline with the innovation plan. I know we have a few members that aren't able to join us today, and this is typically a pretty, I think, substantive vote that folks will take. So is there an urgency to do it at this meeting versus the next, or?
No, I don't think we want to get it done by the end of the school year. There isn't any, Kate, there's probably no specific urgency around it. We just wanted to get it, we put it on the table last week, but if you wanted to carry on one more week, one more meeting, we can certainly do that as well.
Member Campbell?
I would think, given that you received no substantive changes from school committee members and the feedback was generally supportive, I think that for school planning purposes, to be able to move, I don't think that there's a technical reason to not be able to delay it, but I think from like a school leader perspective, the delay on it just can cause sometimes some unnecessary concern around the reasons for the delay or what the support is, and I think just kind of being able to vote and move on would be very helpful if I were the school leader anyways. And so again, given that there hasn't been any comments or feedback that would indicate that school committee members would want any substantive changes, we've had it for quite a while now. So I'll obviously defer to this committee, but my preference would be to be able to vote on it since it's here and the school is expecting it to be voted on.
I agree.
I'm agnostic.
You're at dusk. Okay, fair enough. I'm comfortable voting on it. I do have a question. So you had indicated that the retention of unspent funds was being removed from the plan. It's still, the one that we have in our backup materials for May 19th, it's still listed on page 37
Okay.
as an innovation.
I thought that had been removed out of there. Okay, let me, well then, maybe you could take the vote that that will be, is supposed to be removed out of there. I don't know if that's another version.
That's the one that's dated today.
Today, okay.
Yeah. I mean, we do a motion to approve the innovation plan for Bentley on the condition that we're striking the autonomy requested for retention of unspent funds.
Are you asking for it?
Yeah, I'm asking, is there a motion?
Oh, do we want it now? I thought we were voting on it later, but I'll
Oh, yeah,
we can also do it now. That's
No, it's fine, we'll do it.
Okay.
We'll do it in the proper order of the
Sorry, I
agenda.
couldn't tell if you were, I didn't realize you were
No,
asking
when we
for
get to it, that would be the motion,
Yeah.
I suppose.
Okay. At this time, I did want to, we have a brief update about special education. This is something that had been asked for previously. And so Jen Doucette-Lee, who's in her second year as executive director of special education, has a brief presentation that's in your packet to provide some information about the current state of our programming and where we want to continue to move our services. I would just say this. I think we've seen some important improvement. While I think our track record is a bit better than other gateway cities, it does not mean that we feel like we have arrived in any way, and that we do have a lot of work to do. And I'm confident in the direction of Jen and her team that we're headed. We're in a good place. So I'm going to turn it over to Jen.
All right, thank you. So tonight I'm going to go over a few things that we've been doing in special ed, give you some information about our population, and some DESE findings that we've had recently in the last few weeks. Okay. All right, so just to remind you, the buckets of work that I had spoken about when I came here in August last year. So we were talking about capacity building, supporting all learners, and working with our community and caregiver support. So this year we focused on all of them, and we were able to make big improvements in most of them. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So just to bring you back to the data around our students, about 72% of our students receive their education either in the inclusion setting or the partial inclusion setting. That means they receive the majority of their education within the general education classroom. About 7% of our students are educated in the least restrictive setting for them in out-of-district settings. And then the other, about 20% of our students are educated in a substantially sub-separate setting. That means that they receive the majority of their education within a special ed classroom. And where are our students identified with disabilities? So about 16-17% of our students are identified with under the autism category. That is a little bit of an increase over last year, which is a nationwide phenomenon. As practitioners and physicians get better at diagnosing ASD, we see a rise in that across the nation. The one that did go down was our emotional disability. As we come out of the pandemic, we're seeing a reduction of students that are identified with a social emotional disability. And of course, our biggest category is the specific learning disability, at around 22%. So that would be a disability in the areas of reading, writing, or math. It can be one or all three. Oh, and just one other thing. We have about 1,100 students with an IEP this year. That is a slight increase of about 14 students over last year. And that is commensurate with about the increase of students in the entire district, too. All right, recently we heard from DESE about our special education determination under IDEA. Every year, annually, every district receives a report of how they're doing, and the highest that you can get is meets requirements, and the other levels are needs assistance, needs intervention, or needs significant intervention. And this is based on different data points such as MCAS, reporting, compliance, and complaints. Salem is part of the Mass Urban Districts for special ed. That includes Boston, Lynn, Lowell, Lawrence, so many districts that are just like ours. And we were one of only 3 of those districts that met requirements. So that's a big honor, and I also think that says a lot about our district and our providers, our commitment to students. some key findings that they had that they said were big strengths of ours was our 4th grade math MCAS for students with disability. We scored higher than the state average. Our percentage of K students that are in inclusion settings, that was higher than the state average. Our rate of PRS and TFM findings, we only had 1 last year that was resolved within the year. And then also our early childhood reporting. So early childhood reporting includes the reporting of when students come to us, at what level they are starting with us, and when they exit the preschool setting, where do they leave us. So we have very high numbers around that. They identified 2 areas of growth, which we also identified last year as an area of need. The first was 8th grade math MCAS for students with disabilities, which was also a district initiative this year. Special Ed addressed that this year through partnering with Landmark around math instruction for students with disability in the inclusion setting, and also through extra professional development for teachers around Orton Gillingham specialized math instruction. The other category where we found quite deficient, and we had identified it as well, was around outcomes for students with disabilities 1 year after they graduate. The reporting, not the actual outcome. So as you know, trying to get a hold of students a year after they graduate is quite difficult. A lot of times they don't answer their email, they've changed their phone number. So this year what we did is during the 12th grade meetings, IEP meetings, we let parents know that we were working on this and that we wanted to see where their students were at in a year. And we let them know that this summer we would be contacting them for that information. So last year we had about 6%, which is not unusual for urban districts, but we want to see that much higher. We want to know how our students are doing, and if they said they were going to college, if they went to college, or if they're working on the work field. All right, so there's a lot of things to be really excited about that's going on in special ed right now. This year we rolled out the new IEP, which was statewide, but in Salem it was a very smooth rollout. Teachers reported that it was in line with our district initiatives and the way that we operate. We often talk about our ML students, which is now part of the new IEP. We talk about technology often. That is also a big part of the IEP. And the transition to adulthood, which is also another big part of the IEP. We also started our Aspiring Educators for Special Ed Teachers. We recognized that the pipeline for special ed teachers, it was kind of growing a little bit thin. And so what people kept saying that they would love to do is to have a way that would be no cost for them to get their special ed license. We had 11 educators that were interested in getting their special ed license. It was a combination of paraprofessionals and special ed teachers with waivers. 11 participated, 2 have already received their license, and 2 have finished the modules and are in the process of getting their DESE license, so we're working with them. They do this through a combination of working on modules around special education and working with mentor teachers. When I first became the director, one of the things I heard loud and clear is that teachers want to receive professional development from other teachers. So in special ed, we created a teacher leader for the different disciplines. So this was our 2nd year of it. It's very well received. Teachers report about 95% or more satisfaction with this model. They've really enjoyed that. Unified sports, we expanded to the middle school and to some of our elementary schools, and next year we're hoping to have that in all of our schools. So unified sports is an initiative between students with disabilities and their peers, and they compete with other schools, and they also compete within the district as well. Last year, we had our inaugural Landmark Scholars. That is a joint partnership with Landmark. Landmark provides a scholarship for our teachers to receive more training, and we also provide a small stipend for teachers to buy materials. And this is identified teachers, special ed teachers that show promise in the areas of reading instruction and writing instruction. So last year, our 2 inaugural scholars, they studied reading disabilities for students that are dually identified, and the other teacher chose to work on inclusion instruction for students with reading disabilities. This year, we're in the process of identifying 2 more Landmark scholars. We also had our first parent forums this year. So this is professional development for parents. So we did one around the new IEP and transition plans, and we also partnered with Exceptional Lives, which is a nonprofit organization made up of parents of students with disabilities. They came in and they spoke with parents around how to create a positive relationship between the district and their team. This year, we started the year fully staffed, and we were fully staffed for most of the year, We did have one resignation towards the end of the year. We had a lot of babies born this year, so that was challenging to fill. But we were able to either shift caseloads around, hire contractors, and retired teachers to fill all those. So we also received, for the second year in a row, we've received an IEP improvement grant. So this is going to fund professional development for teachers around progress monitoring, writing good IEPs, and working with students with the IEP process. We also rolled out asynchronous training for all teachers around a multitude of special ed topics, such as discrete trials, ABA, reading disabilities. And so those are available at any time for teachers and paraprofessionals if they want to learn more about a topic. We also include it as part of our PD, so maybe they might go off and do a little bit of learning on their own and they come together to talk about it. We also did a pilot with LilyPad. LilyPad is an offshoot of Cartwheel, which we all know, we've heard about before. They provide bilingual educational evaluations in academics and psychological in 39 different languages. So we've always offered our evaluations in Spanish, but now we're able to offer it in a lot of other languages as well, low incidence languages such as Cantonese, Vietnamese, Portuguese, Haitian Creole, Urdu. And so they're able to communicate with families around the evaluation process and complete those evaluations in their home language, which is really exciting. This year we also started early childhood screenings. This is something that most districts did before the pandemic, and most districts are just starting to get that off the ground this year. So we started our early childhood screenings this winter and spring. And those early childhood screenings are to see if students need extra support or if they need a special ed referral. We also started our first school readiness play groups, and those are for students that are 3 to 5 years old in our community that might need a little bit of a boost in communication, language, gross motor, fine motor, play skills, and social emotional. And here's my bucket list for next year. So again, looking at the 3 buckets that we talked about at the beginning of this presentation, what do I really want to work on for next year? So we're really looking at continuing support for inclusion, and we've just started this summer. We're doing a special ed teacher to special education leader program. We have 2 special ed teachers that would like to be special ed admins, and they are working on that this summer. They're going to be working in our extended year programs on their leadership hours, so that's really exciting. We're also want to expand and formalize that aspiring educator pipeline. We also want to, with the new jump rope, which is our new report card system, we're updating and expanding the curriculum entry points for students with disabilities, expanding our practice around disability identification, updating curriculum for severe special needs. So this year we've purchased quite a bit of new software for those programs to be implemented next year. And then also expanding our scope and sequence of discrete trials so that it would be ACE, ABA training for our severe special needs. Next year, we also, for our educators, we have 2 affinity groups coming, one for our educators that identify with a disability, and one for educators that are going home and taking care of children with disabilities. It's very challenging to be an educator and be in one of those categories, so I feel that this will be a nice way for them to find peers and camaraderie within the district. And also, I've been approached by a few of our Spanish-speaking families to start a Latino families for a special education group. So those are the exciting things I have for next year. And I think that is it, if you have any questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So we have Member Miranda has now joined us on Zoom as well. So, any following votes for the rest of this meeting will be by roll call vote. Are there questions? Member Cruz?
Thank you so much for that presentation and the overview of what's happening in the district with respect to special ed. My question was around one of your things to be excited about, the parent forums. I just found that to be very interesting. Could you just talk about, you name it as the first, which means hopefully they won't be the last.
It won't be, yeah.
What's the vision for these parent forums and how often, because I just think it's a great family engagement tool, and then wondering with that other affinity group that you had mentioned, if there's any thoughts about who you might be working with to ensure that we can also replicate those same types of trainings for our Latino families as well. So just want to hear a little bit more about that.
So our first parent forum we did it in partnership with the Exceptional Lives, and they are a nonprofit organization that does all of their PD and resources in Spanish and English. So they were able to join us. We did have a translator for that, and it was actually almost as many Spanish-speaking families as we had English-speaking families. So we were able to do that mostly in Spanish for that one, and I'm hoping that our Spanish Latino families for special education is going to be completely in Spanish, and I will be the one with the translator. So I'm really excited about that for next year and getting that off the ground. When the parents had come to me, they're like, how many parents do you need? I'm like, 5. They're like, we can get you at least 30. So I'm really excited about that and having a venue where they can talk about what is going on for them and how they can access resources in their first language.
And what would be the frequency of these parent forums? Would they be something that you would do monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly? Or?
So our parent forums, our aim is to at least do them quarterly. And it's usually to partner with different organizations in our community for them to, so families can access. So for instance, like one that I envision having is one around transition services. The transition going from school services to adult services at 22 can be quite challenging and difficult and needs to start before a child even turns 18. So that is one that I want to do as well. Also working if you have a child with, say, a reading disability, how can you help at home, and how to access different services outside of the school organization as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
Other questions? Member Cornell?
I just have a question about jump rope. I think there's been positive feedback around the use of jump rope this year. So I'm just curious, does it meet the needs of our special ed families? Is there something, you mentioned it, so I'm just wondering how it's going for folks.
For special ed, it's more flexible in a way that we can pull out the entry points for students. For right now, through Aspen, it's quite difficult to do that for special ed. So either it's everything or nothing. So with jump rope, we're able to pull out the standards that are appropriate for our students that are in front of us, instead of, say, addressing 10 standards and only having maybe 3 of them apply to a student with a disability.
Thank you.
Much easier.
Any other questions? Dr. Zerk?
So just 2 things. I want to thank Ms. Dusali. I think, we've been fortunate under her leadership to see a lot of improvements, and I want to thank Monique as well, who's Ms. Osgood, who's in the audience. 2 things that I think I would ask the school committee just to pay attention to moving forward. I do think we have more work to do, and Jen referenced it, in making sure we engage our Latino families around special education services. I think there's still a lack of certainty around how to navigate the process. And a lot of students are coming to us as newcomers with IEPs. From our travels to the Dominican Republic, we also know that services look very different or not existent at all for students. And so we really need to support our families, our Spanish-speaking families, as much as possible. And I think we've seen the importance already of these workshops, and I love the idea of the mobilization of a Latino leadership group. The Special Education PAC has not been the most diverse group historically, and so we need to make sure we get other voices into the discussion, right, about how to support the needs of students who are both developing language and may have a disability. So I just want to call that out. I also think that we also, I worry about expectation levels in our special education classrooms. I think too often we shift what we expect because kids are in substantially separate classrooms or pulled out of classrooms when kids are quite capable of being pushed to do more challenging work and grade level work, right? So I think we have to, we do need to push to increase our inclusion opportunities for young people. And I know Jen and Monique believe strongly that we have to do more of that. That's not easy to do always. It requires sometimes more resources. It requires more training, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't do that. And I do worry about outcomes for kids. If you look, we do have lagging outcomes, as does a lot of the state, but that doesn't mean we should follow suit. And part of that is some of the exclusionary settings, right? And this is part of educating parents to as well, that just because a child has a disability doesn't mean that they need to be excluded from the general education setting for large periods of time. And so I think that's mindset work that we have to continue to do. I think we need to offer more support, training, coaching. And I'm really proud of the work that our team chairs have begun to do as they've seen themselves now as more than just compliance managers, more and more as leaders and coaches, and they should be our experts along with our teachers to coach parents along the process so that we can see better outcomes for students with disabilities. So I just want to lay that out as work that I think we have ahead in the system.
Agreed. And that is a big reason of why I invested so much money this year of our budget into updating the sub-separate curriculum. Oftentimes what you see, it might be a grade level or two below, when we really should be addressing them with grade level content that is adapted for their needs.
Any further questions? No? Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jen.
Thanks, Jen.
I'm going to pass it over to Member Cornell around the update for the school building, the new school building.
Yep. So I did send this update to members, but and I think we're doing a pretty good job of getting the word out about where we are in the process. But generally speaking, the building committee approved new construction, and by unanimous vote, we had a couple of different options, including just a code update, kind of partial renovation, and we chose the new high school for a few different reasons. One is that it limited the timeline to 30 months, which was the shortest timeline, and therefore limits the disruption to kids. So we're basically building the new high school closer to Highland Avenue, so that high school can be, we can kind of get going while kids are still in Salem High School, and then sort of move them into the new building. There will be a little bit of disruption because the automotive, the Salerno Center has to be demoed in order to make room for the new high school, as does like a tiny little wing of the high school all the way to the right. Or not even a wing, like a small space. But it's, hopefully we can avoid having kids in trailers and a huge disruption, because it'll just be a new construction in a different space. Then once we get all the kids into that building, where we demo the old building, and then that building, part of what is great about that is it will have a lot of outdoor athletic spaces that are MIAA regulation spaces that kids can actually play on campus. So we'll have soccer fields, lacrosse. We have tennis courts, but we'll have updated tennis courts with a pickleball overlay for both for students and adults. You can come back, Mark. You can come back in the summertime. I'm sorry. I know you're a tennis player. So that's really great. I know a lot of people have thoughts, or I should not skip over cost. This is the lowest cost option, except for just a code upgrade is the cheapest option, but a code upgrade really doesn't address the teaching and learning goals that educators in the high school have. The last thing is there's a lot to it, but the indoor athletic space is worth noting, because I know a lot of people are really devoted to the field house, which I think we all are. But our current field house doesn't use very efficient use. It's not an efficient use of space. We can only have one team practicing on a basketball court at one time. This way we can have we'll have three parallel courts for practice, so our JVs and our varsities, or our girls and our boys, can all play at the same time, and then the court will be regulation size. Then we'll have a separate space for wrestling and cheer. We'll have a overhead track. One community member, I have to send this to the building, the architects wants to make sure that our, what is the team that throws the things in the air? I just lost it.
Color guard.
Color guard. Jeez, gosh, I don't know why I have a hard time with that. That has to be a particular height, and that hasn't come up, so we're just going to flag that. Although I blew it with what it was called, so I've already undermined myself. it also just the music space is going to be a sort of state-of-the-art music space where everything's kind of located around the performance space, so kids aren't lugging I can see Mr. Chertoff back there very happy. Kids aren't going to be lugging stuff up and down stairs. Yeah, that wasn't in the original plan, so it's really important that the community looks every time we get stuff out. People should look at it. I had a parent actually, Sarah Hunter, emailed me and said, hey, you got to make sure this is on the same floor. We had a parent email about the location of the special ed classrooms. We're in a really odd spot and nobody flagged it. So there's been real community input. So anybody who's watching at home, the architects are paying attention to all that feedback. So you can send it to me, to the superintendent. I'm going to skip the mayor because he's busy, but and we will get that information to the architects. It's been super valuable. And then the last thing is just our CTE programs are just going to be, they're going to be more integrated with our more traditional academic spaces so that, things that make sense can be near each other, right? Like chemistry and culinary, we can have those things in proximity to one another because they relate to one another. You can tell I'm very excited about this building. And just lastly, we're going to have a public session on Tuesday the 3rd at the Community Life Center, and it's for anybody to come, but we're really urging parents of our younger kids who really aren't thinking about high school right now to come and check it out. So if anybody knows parents of littles who are going to experience this fabulous high school, please urge them to come, but we'll be publicizing this a lot in the next 2 weeks. Did I miss anything?
No, you said that you mentioned June 3rd, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No, just the only other thing I'd call out is that there's going to be a session for Salem High School teachers to look at the plans coming up on June 11th, because we want to make sure those that will be living in the building have input on the, and I do want to stress that, just because they voted on new construction doesn't mean that I think people think the decision has already been made. We still have a fair number of months here before the final design is complete, so input can still be received and adjustments can be made, and that's why we need people to weigh in to point out the things that Beth Ann mentioned. That we, just because a lot of people have looked at it doesn't mean that we've thought of everything, and so we need as many eyes on this design as possible before I think it becomes official sometime in the fall.
Good.
Well, and I just want to give, I think that's the fall. It's October is where we have sort of a hard stop for public input. And certain things really aren't going to be, like if you would like to have the auditorium somewhere else, that's probably not going to happen. It's probably going to stay where that is. It's sort of a central part of the building. But like I said, those other interior design things are really up for conversation for quite a while. Like, if you give it to us in September, that might be a little rough. But yeah, it's that's every time we're going to be out in the community a lot. So anytime, let people know.
Do you have a?
Yes.
Go ahead, Member Cruz.
Thank you, Member Cornell, for those updates. And I guess these questions would be for the superintendent or for you, Member Cornell. So appreciated hearing the CTE update and just the consideration around co-housing and making sure that they're not kind of segregated from the rest of the high school. I think that that's going to be a marked change for students. That would be tremendous. I just had questions about any updates you could provide around the library space and what that would look like in a new construction. And then the other piece was just, I know that the current high school was built for, I think it's about 2,000 students. Has there been discussions about capacities with new construction and any projections, knowing that when you build it, people come? And we're making a lot of progress. We're the #1 gateway city for public education. Salem continues to be an attractive place for families to move into the district. So just wondering what conversations around census have kind of been and what we're thinking we're going to land at.
I think the capacity is 1,000. And, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't something that we've been a little concerned about, because Salem Public Schools are doing great, and I think we are a lot more attractive to families than we've been in quite a while. That also comes up against the reality of birth rate. The birth rate is declining, and particularly in Massachusetts. So I think it's a really difficult projection to make. So I agree. I think if we build it, they will come. But the birth rate is declining regardless, and Salem is still only 8 square miles. So I think, hopefully, this will be, the demographic stuff is going to kind of take care of itself, but hopefully we'll be at capacity. And then what was the second? I feel like I missed.
The library.
Oh, the library is not called a library. It's called a
Learning Commons.
A Learning Commons, I believe. And so, but I feel like I can't.
Yeah, it's not like your traditional library in terms of size. In the newer high schools, it acts more as like a multimedia type center, and it's not as large. It's a place for some gathering of students to work in small groups, and but not to the extent of like what libraries were built. And the collections are nowhere near as big because so much has moved to the digital collections. But I do think there's some discussion about like, what exactly is going to be in this library space, and where it's going to, and sort of how much does it act as like in some of the schools we saw there, it's like everybody passes through the library as a cut through. But I think that's something we can talk more about with I think there's some discussion still left to have. Can I just add about the space? This has come up about how big the school is. I am worried about it, and I'll go on record as saying I am worried that the school was, this is not an uncommon problem, but our enrollment has increased by close to 200 students since we got into the pipeline of the project. So even when the mayor and I were talking, that was about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and our enrollment has continued to go up. And that's not inclusive of like the shiny, people are coming when we don't have the new building right now, or returning. So we've got to talk, we're going to have those conversations with the MSBA. We are cognizant of it in terms of the number of classroom spaces. We're trying to build as much contingency for that very fact. So this is something we all should be paying attention to, because it's possible that we would be at 1,000 students or more before the building is even built.
And just to that point, that you just triggered my memory about this, but I remember them. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't ask you if I could speak.
You may speak.
I'm going now. Yeah, it's happening. So I think it's like that when that conversation came up, they were basically talking about like, okay, how do we kind of make room for, I think the number was like 13, like additional classrooms somewhere that you could reconfigure in some other space. So we're having, those conversations are happening. I think we're continuing to have conversations around the daycare in the high school and whether or not that's the best location for that. So I forgot about those conversations, but we are still having those conversations.
Member Cruz?
So I appreciate the answers there and just the insights. I think on my part, I'll just express my concern is recognizing birth rates. We've been talking about declining enrollment. We've been seeing a boost for the last, I would say, 5 years in enrollment at the high school. And I think we're really competitive with some of the other places that our students and families are choosing to go. And I know when we look at like historical trends before, I think folks had some of those other options. Salem High was having around like 1,400 students enrolled less than like 15 years ago. So I would just name that, I think for me that's going to be a persistent concern, is that we might underbuild for what we may see an influx, especially I know that there's other high schools in the area that are thinking about new buildings and facilities, and if that doesn't materialize, what does that mean for us, and whether or not we'd be a more attractive options for families that are located here in Salem that aren't sending their kids to the traditional public schools. So, to the extent possible that whatever monitoring we're doing around this or projections, that we can just take that into account going forward. I just appreciate having an understanding of that, just so that when the ball comes to my court with my other hat on, I'm able to, continue to make the case to the MSBA about what communities like Salem that are seeing, boosts in their enrollment may need in the process.
If I'll just weigh in on this, that, I think we worked with MSBA pretty early on the projections around the future enrollment based on, both the demographics of the community and also the MSBA's own experience in like districts with similar projects and, what they have seen. I think just to speak a little bit about the communications part, in addition to this upcoming meeting, there'll be lots of other opportunities for people to get engaged. The building committee meetings are all public, and folks can come to those. We'll be doing a roadshow over the course of the next several months to talk about this project, and then beyond that, because I think it's important for people to understand that you mentioned the MSBA, the Mass School Building Authority, is partially funding this project. They only reimburse up to about $600, a little bit more than that per square foot. We're looking at a project that's close to $1,000 a square foot right now. And so we have some work to do to convince MSBA and our state partners to maybe adjust the reimbursement cap to reflect the actual costs of constructing in this day and age. And I also want folks who are maybe following this project to know that the cost consideration has been foremost in the mind of the building committee and this committee. We've made a lot of decisions along the way that have been very reflective of a concern around the affordability of this project. When we were talking about grade configuration, we were starting with probably the most expensive proposition, which was a combination grade 7, 8, and also 9 through 12 building. The decision to maintain the existing grade configuration was very much driven by concern about the cost. So that decision, plus the decision made at May 8th at the building committee meeting to go with the new construction option, effectively reduced about 25% the cost of what we had initially started with, to bring down the project cost to a more affordable number. It's still a big number. And one of the things I think the public needs to understand is that we're going to be most likely having a ballot question for a debt exclusion override vote on this a year from now in the spring. And so it's important for members of the community, whether they're part of the school community or not, to understand the scope of this project and how we're affording it, and why it's so important for our community and for our kids and for our schools. Still your update, Dr. Stern.
Still okay. I didn't know if there were any other comments. Last thing on my update is budgetary. There's a budget transfer, and I think Ms. Pauley is on Zoom.
Yes. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to participate through Zoom. I wanted to call your attention to a transfer request that I think is on page 87 of the packet. We are requesting approval of a transfer that is $8,000. So as you know, that is below the threshold required that requires school committee approval. However, it is transferring money from a non-personnel account to a personnel account. And so by past practice, we bring those to school committee regardless of the amount. So this particular transfer is due to an employee at the Bentley School went out on parental leave, and the principal felt like we needed to bring someone in to cover that position. So this position was a behavior specialist. It is not a position that we typically have substitutes for. So the principal asked if Bentley could hire a behavior specialist who would cover the leave, which was budgeted and something that we could afford to do as a district, but then keep that person through the end of the school year. And so the principal came up with this very creative solution to transfer $8,000 from non-personnel to personnel expenses to cover the cost that would be for when the original employee who had gone out on parental leave, they come back, and the employee that was hired stays then through the end of the school year. So this is covering the difference of the salary following the end of the parental leave and the end of the school year. So we are requesting your permission to move the money from Bentley's contracted services line, which is a non-personnel line, to their elementary behavior specialist line to cover the difference in the salary costs.
Any questions? All right. Any further updates?
Oh, that concludes my comments.
All right. Any subcommittee reports? Yeah, Member Cornell.
I just want to explain the changes to policy 3204 and 6402. So 3204 is lease and rental of school facilities. So as this committee knows, we've got a lot of budgetary concerns that are going to kind of follow us through the next few years. And we were supposed to have been reviewing all leases in excess of 10 months, but we haven't been doing that as a committee. And so the subcommittee suggests that we actually change that to 6 months and actually vote as a school committee on these long-term leases. So this is a full-time occupancy lease. So and we define that as any use of Salem Public School facilities in excess of 3 days a week. So space is going to be important to us in the coming years. So that's why we decided to make that change. We also, kind of in that same spirit, added that the superintendent, in concert with buildings and grounds, shall be responsible for any part-time rentals for leases under 6 months duration. Again, because we really, as we all know, we really need to start thinking about the way that we use space throughout the district. And then lastly, we added leases and rentals shall not be granted to religious organizations, which is not uncommon in school districts throughout Massachusetts, and that is to address concerns that we may have a religious organization whose values maybe don't align with the district's, and so we decided to adopt that provision. I don't know if anybody has a question.
Yep, Member Cruz.
And I'll just add, on the advice of council, that needed to be either a blanket ban or you have, essentially anyone could come and rent the space as a religious organization. So there wasn't room to kind of review or to cause, to use like a more, I would say, like nuanced tool to evaluate religious organizations and rentals. So we went with the blanket ban just to ensure equity to all, so we'd be rejecting all applications. The only other part, Member Cornell, that I would just point out is, I think we did talk about, I think we need to get the policy in place, but it would be great if the superintendent could actually get some data to the committee about the number of leases that we currently have within the district that are full-time occupancy and then part-time, just so we get a sense of kind of who's using space as we have some larger conversations over the summer.
Yeah, thanks for raising that, Mr. Cruz. I actually had a conversation with Assistant Superintendent Pauly today that at the next meeting, the June 3rd meeting, or I guess that's second meeting, we are going to bring a copy of the leases and just review them with the committee, just briefly, because there's a number of ones, so you have them all, and then we can discuss what we want to do. Many of them are expired right now.
Will those be sent in advance of the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Any further questions?
And then policy 6402, I just wanted to explain this. It was really prescriptive, and the amazing Shirley Durai brought this to our attention and said because it's so prescriptive, we were ending up having back-to-back Monday meetings where we weren't getting a lot done. So this is just a lot less prescriptive and says that we will convene at least once per month at 7 p.m. during the calendar year. That doesn't mean that we won't meet twice per month. We're still setting the calendar in advance, but it's not so prescriptive so that we end up having to, take meetings off the schedule or have these back-to-back meetings where we're not accomplishing very much. And I think that's about it there.
Any other subcommittee reports? Okay. Motions and resolutions. On the Bentley Innovation, yep, Member Cruz.
Move to approve the Bentley Innovation Plan and to move to strike the section that notes that balances on the budget could carry over to future fiscal years.
Second.
All right. Motion made by Member Cruz and seconded by Member Cornell. Under discussion. So this is striking the requested.
Mayor?
Hello?
Hi, may I speak?
Yes.
This is Veronica.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, and my apologies if I missed some of the discussion around that, but what was the reasoning behind striking the section where they couldn't carry over? Was that recommended by the superintendent, or?
It was recommended. It was inadvertently not removed from the version of the plan that was presented to the committee tonight. So it was removed from the table of autonomies that was requested under the budget section in section F, but the full text from the narrative section was retained. So it's striking the narrative text on page 37 of the plan that was provided to the committee today. Otherwise, adopting the plan as proposed, or approving the plan as proposed.
Okay, thank you. I remember that coming up in the last meeting, but I think I got a little bit confused there, so thank you for clarifying.
Sure thing. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Member Cruz?
Yes.
Member Miranda?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Cornell?
Yes.
And myself, yes. The matter carries. Is there a motion on the budget transfers requested?
Move to approve. Do you want them read?
Second.
Motion made by Member Campbell, seconded by Member Cornell. Under discussion. Is the budget transfer? Seeing none, a roll call vote. Member Miranda?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Cornell?
Yes.
Member Cruz?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Matter carries. Motion to, this is a first reading of policy 3204 and 6402.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Member Cornell, seconded by Member Campbell. Roll call vote. Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Cornell?
Yes.
Member Cruz?
Yes.
Member Miranda?
Yes.
And myself, yes. The matters carry. Any announcements from committee members? Seeing none. Is there another? Member Cruz.
So I just wanted to circle back to the information that I shared with the superintendent on the forums. I would just encourage this committee through the superintendent, our high school leaders, and then it would be great if Ms. Doucette-Lee could attend or send in public comment on this portrait of a high school graduate, what this should look like moving forward. And in particular, I think we had talked about at previous school committee meetings as we think about graduation requirements, especially for our students with disabilities, to confer a diploma. We had a very antiquated system, and folks were getting those certificates of completion instead. So, I just think that it would be great if we could get some public comment and testimony in front of this particular group during these listening sessions that could kind of, I think, push the envelope and to get that feedback from our leaders within the district, because I would worry that what we would end up with wouldn't be reflective of what we experience in gateway cities at some of these forums.
Anything else? All right.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Member Campbell, seconded by Member Cornell. Roll call vote. Member Cornell?
Yes.
Member Cruz?
Yes.
Member Miranda?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
And myself, yes. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.